Okay, welcome to the Lower Shore. I'm going to res the SeaWolf. This is beta 131, which is probably either the final version or pretty close to it. So if you want to just jump right in, you can right-click and choose Drive, or if you want to do the slow way, if you're in range of chat, you simply type gangway, or I'm sorry, gangway left, since we're on the left. If you just type gangway, it actually makes the gangway disappear, which is the next thing that we'll do. So now I'm here, and at any point I can just type gangway again, and without extra characters. So now this ladder will actually bring you into the submarine, which is pretty neat. And once you're in, then there's all sorts of great things that you can see, but since we have a auto return here, I'm going to now drive the submarine. So when you choose drive, that's when the engines start to spin up. And you're placed in here, the CIC, the Combat Information Center of the submarine. Directly to the aft is the cafeteria. Well, this is more of a meeting room, and then the cafeteria, and then there's sleeping quarters, and then up in the front of the sub, the forward section, is the torpedo room. And these torpedo doors can be basically opened by anyone. There's about 25 places for different people to sit. They can sit here in the CIC. They can sit in the meeting room, or the lounge is what I call it. This is actually a clickable little door for the galley. And then all of these different bunks are also sittable. You can sleep there. So I'll show you the HUD. As you can see, I have a HUD here. It just has one switch that will make this panel hide. It's pretty self-explanatory over here. This is a compass, your remaining hit points on Vice, your current depth. We are right now at 0. As you can see, we're right at the water line, so that's depth 0. So this will go, the number will go up as we go down, so it will not be a minus sign. So if we're 20 meters down, it will say 20. Pitch is your dive angle, so it's going to be minus or positive. Knots are your speed in converted knots. So this is a 1 to 2.5 scale speed to match many of the other vessels we have in Second Life. Over here is a visual representation of pitch, and it's very important, and I will explain why once we actually get underway. This stuff here, you can sort of read that yourself. It doesn't need me to explain it. Anyway, the submarine is driven differently than other submarines. I believe this is the first time that a submarine script of this nature has been made. So when you're on the surface, it drives pretty much like a ship. And you use the forward and back controls, which is W and S, or the up and down arrows, to set your RPM, basically your throttle. Right and left, and this is while you're on the surface. So it basically functions like any surface vessel. Where things begin to get differently is how do you go underwater. Most of the time in Second Life, you just simply press the down key, which is C, or page down, and then it just goes down. What we do here is we press the down key, yes, but what happens is the sub begins to angle down. And I'm just going to go into the combat sit here so you can kind of see what's happening. And then we actually fly the submarine underwater, just like a real submarine. You can see it has dive planes here that move depending on whether you're going into dive or whether you're going into surface. It goes faster underwater, as you can see, 36 knots underwater, and if we go up to the surface, that will reduce. You can also see it has a nice breaching effect. So it reduces to 29 maximum on the surface. These are, again, 1 to 2.5 scale, so it corresponds to, I think, about a maximum of 8 meters a second in Second Life. So let's go back underwater. We can show you a little bit more about how to drive this thing. I prefer to use the combat sit. That's either done from the HUD, as you can see, or you just type C. There are 2 other sits for the captain. Once you're actually piloting the sub, you can choose the con sit, which will put you into the conning tower, which I'm not going to do right now since the conning tower is closed. Or you can choose the CIC sit, which is either you click that or you type CIC, at which point now you're inside again. So if I type C, I'm back here, but I'm also not obstructing the view. This is a special combat sit. It's just for using this in the form that I'm using it now, where you don't have to deal with your own avatar being in the way. Okay, so the controls I already kind of explained, but there are 2 additional. One of them is a blow ballast mode, which is if you hold down the mouse button and press up. So this is holding down the mouse button and pressing up, which is page up, or E. And it blows the ballast and you surface quickly. You can also flood the ballast, which is where you hold down the mouse button and press the down key, and then we go quickly straight down. If you want to equalize while you're in flood mode, you just simply press the up key, and then that equalizes it, so then you can drive the sub normally. The sub has a wide turning radius when it's at speed, so if you want to get a tight turn, you're going to have to make use of your RPM. So if I reduce my RPM a lot, then I can turn the sub much more tightly. But if I just go full speed, and this is a very fast submarine, the turning circle becomes very wide. So you just have to keep that in mind when you're doing this. It really comes down to understanding how to pilot this thing. It doesn't really drive like any other vessel or any other vehicle in Second Life as far as I know. So I'm going to just stop for a moment and talk a little bit about the rest of the controls. So we talked a little bit about driving it, and I'm going to show you what happens when you press some of these buttons. So the tube doors are rather self-explanatory, and we just have 1 on each side. Now the real SeaWolf has 8, but we've got 2. And they're pretty much just for show because the weapons do res considerably forward of that section. And the reason for that is that you have a very large physics shape. More on that later, but it does make you a very easy target. So that's another reason why I made this sub very fast. Okay, so lights are here. You can see they go on and off. But you can also say lights on, lights off, and so on. Or if you're inside, you can click these, and they all integrate. So whether you do chat commands or whether you, like if I turn the lights on here, and then you see the light goes on. I turn it off here, and all of these controls work. There's a flag that will come up. I believe you can choose the country as well. So I have it set to the default, which is US flag. And if you click on the flag, it will bring up a menu. You can choose the country. The con open will open up this, and you normally wouldn't do this when you're underwater. So let me just quickly blow ballast. Now sometimes it gets stuck when you're in blow ballast mode, and you have to give it at least a little bit of engine RPM to kind of get it moving again. But this is the con. You can see my tail is right there because I'm right now in combat sit, but con sit is right here. And so this is how you would be on the surface, just captaining your submarine. The periscope goes up like that. It can also be done with chat commands. Or, again, the CIC control panel there. So there's that, and plus if you want to just click on the lights, you can click them, or you can click on this to move the flag, or the doors. You can click on them. Now, if you happen to not be already piloting it, let's say you wanted to enter the submarine, you can do it from here. You simply press that, and then you can descend this ladder just like you would the entry ladder in the back. So let's go back to combat sit, and I'm going to close all these things. And I'll talk a little bit about the weapon suite that we have here. So you've got, let me go back underwater here. You have basically 4 tubes, and there are surface tubes, two surface tubes, and 2 wire-guided tubes. And the wire-guided are not really for surface. You can use them against surface vessels, but they have to be close. So let me explain. On this side of the HUD, you can see you've got your anti-surface loadout, and it's loaded with 2 currently. So the current loadout is the Mark 48 Seeking torpedo, and in order to fire those, you press B. That fires a torpedo, which then goes up to the surface, and then it will ride on the surface until it either just is gone or until it actually finds a target. So if there is no seated avatar on the vessel, then it's just an unguided torpedo. It's not going to seek anything. But if there is one, and they're within the range of the sensor, which is actually a very narrow sensor, I did that on purpose. I did not want this thing to be too easy. The sensor is just 45-degree radius, and then I think it's for the torpedoes, I think it's like 30 meters. So you have to really be very accurate with your aim. But if it does manage to lock on, then it's most likely going to hit the target. So that's your surface torpedoes. They're fired with B, but if you want to change to the Harpoon missile, they're also fired from the same surface tubes. And that would be, you could either click this or you say B1. It acknowledges that by giving you the Morse code signal for M, which is missile. And then they're fired the same by pressing B, but this is actually a missile, and it's going to surface and then skim along above the surface. And then it also will seek a target in the same way that the seeking torpedoes do. And hopefully I didn't just shoot at someone. No, I don't think so. That's somebody way up in the sky. The torpedoes and the missiles are not able to fire at aircraft. So you basically have nothing that you can use against aircraft. So if somebody's shooting at you with an airplane, you need to just go below the surface. It's the only thing you can do. And that might even be what's about to happen now. So that's the harpoons and the anti-surface torpedoes. Now on the other side, the other tubes are wire-guided, and these work differently. So I'll show you how a wire-guided system works. They're really designed just to be used in a single sim, because the wire guidance only works in the same sim that you're in. So the command to fire a wire-guided torpedo is G, and then you just sort of pull the torpedo where you want it to go. As you can see, it takes a little time once you actually fire torpedoes for them to reload. It'll reload one, and then it takes another full cycle to get both of them. If I fire another torpedo, you can sort of see how I control it by dragging. If I just zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see how I'm controlling it by dragging it. It doesn't aim at the point that like where this little pointer is. That's not where the target is. You have to drag it. You have to pretend like it's on a wire, and you are steering the torpedo. That's how this is controlled. So I steer it this way, steer it that way. If it needs to go further, I got to pull it further. You can't use these above the water, though. If you try, they're going to either try to bounce their way back underwater, or they will just explode. If they get up into the air, then see, that one just exploded. So you can't really use them against things that are above the surface, but you can use it, obviously, to impact a hull of a surface ship if it's close enough. So let's see if we can find some drone vessels to shoot at, although I don't see that there are very many. So while we're out just driving around, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to effectively use this thing. It was designed to be fun. It was designed to be fast and maneuverable, so that your speed and maneuverability are the main things that you will be using as your defense. It doesn't have any countermeasures, and it, as you can see, it only has 2 active tubes per side, and they take a little while to regenerate, so you're not going to be able to flood the area with a lot of ordnance. You're going to have to pick and choose the times when you shoot your weapons. So for the most part, you're going to be best off being cautious and being quick, and not letting yourself get trapped in a point where you're going too slow or where you're cornered. Because as you can see, there's a very large submarine. It had to be made larger than the normal 1 to 2.5 scale so that people could fit their full-size avatars inside. But other than that, it's still more or less a 1 to 2.5 scale. So again, you're at a disadvantage with such a large target, and the collision volume is actually even larger. So what you need to do is stay moving, and when somebody starts firing torpedoes at you, you got to be aware and looking around and find a way to evade them, use your speed, use your turning ability, and especially use your brains, because there's always going to be ways that you can try to outsmart your opponent, and that's what this is all about. I thought about maybe making some more sophisticated anti like sonar stuff, but I just decided that it would be difficult at best to do, and then the game wouldn't be as fun, because you'd mostly just be sitting there and hoping that your machinery would win the game for you. And so that's why I made it the way it was, or the way it is. So I don't think we are seeing any target vessels. But maybe I'll make another video and we'll just cut in and you can see them later. But you get a pretty good idea of how to, how to operate the submarine now. So I'll show you a little bit about what happens when you surface. So if you surface the sub, it'll actually come out of the water and then it'll breach just like a real sub. So nothing to shoot at, but I'll take it into a little port here so you can see how to egress from the submarine. Alright, so I'm on the conning tower, so that's the con sit. We're coming into a port, so let's see if we can come alongside this little pier and then exit. Alright, here we are. So the first thing I'm going to do is extend the gangway. This one is gangway right, and as you can see it's going to provide us pretty good egress there. So now I'm up here on the con, and I don't think there's an auto return here. So I'm just going to unsit, and you can see how this works. If I want to go back into the sub, I just do it like that. This is again the torpedo room, which we kind of saw that before. If you sit here, it will, again, because it's a vehicle, it will give you that vehicle positioning. But this is what you look like. So this is like a little. It's like you got a job there. Same thing with sitting in these spots. You become part of the crew. And if you want to take a snooze, that would be the place to do it. So now we're just snoozing. But let's exit. Well, here's our engine room. And we exit the same way we entered. So the HUD will not work if you're not connected to the submarine, but the chat commands, at least if you're the owner, they should work. And the click spots will also work. So I click the periscope, I click the doors, And the sub is all buttoned up, and then the final thing we're going to do is just type gangway. And then there we go. We've done a little miniature journey in our submarine.